Good evening, folks, and welcome to the regular select board meeting of December 20th. This will be our last meeting before Christmas. And in this calendar year, if you would join me now with the Pledge of Allegiance, we'll start our meeting.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much. The orders have been signed, Joe. We have a full select board meeting with 4 members here in the select board room, and Joe DiNardo has joined us on the Zoom call.
Yeah. Bill, can you show?
I was trying to,
Yeah.
well, yes, I can.
Okay.
Well, I was working on trying to change our video quality on the recording, and that was one of the suggestions that I was given, was to not show people that aren't on video. So,
Well, I like to see the names on the boxes light up.
there we go.
Okay. That looks good. Thank you.
Here's everybody.
Okay. So the orders are on your desk, Joe, and the next order of business will be the approval of select board minutes. You have them on your desk. The first, take them in order, would be the minutes from December 6th meeting.
Move we approve as printed.
Second.
Motion's made and seconded that we approve the minutes as printed. Are there any additions, corrections, deletions of the minutes of December 6th? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Unopposed, minutes are approved. I'll circulate them for signature.
So I got it.
Got it. Bill, I have the minutes of October 25th on my desk.
You had a lot of copies of minutes on your desk.
No, these are, whoops, wait a minute. I thought that was a signed one, but that is. Does that one need to be signed? This is not a signed copy.
Thank you.
I had a signed copy on there that I guess somebody must have picked it up. Anyways, the next order of business will be the approval of the minutes of December 12th, 2022.
Move we approve as printed.
Second.
Motion's made and seconded to approve the minutes of December 12th as printed. Are there any additions, deletions, corrections to those minutes? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 And there's no opposition, so we'll circulate these for signature. Yep. Are there any announcements from board members?
I would like to say one thing.
Only one?
Yep. There was some kind of a rumor going around that Kurt said something to the effect, and Kurt didn't, that I was disappointed in the fire department and what they did at a recent fire. I don't know who's spreading these rumors. Number one, I have full faith in my fire department. If I had a problem, I would go to Chris. And if I couldn't get Chris, I would go to Dell. I am not going to pretend to be a fireman. I'm not going to pretend to know what they do and don't do. So I would in no way go around saying anything. And I want you to know it didn't just come from one person. It came from several people in the last couple hours. So I'm very disappointed at whoever chooses to spread false rumors. If they don't happen to like me or they don't happen to like Kurt, then face us to our face, not behind her back. I don't appreciate it. Thank you.
Thanks for clarifying that. And it is appropriate with full transparency that we take care of things out in the open like that. Any other announcements? Oh, I have a couple. First of all, I would like to commend our senior leadership, Randy Roberts and Nancy Burgess, and all of those folks that came to the luncheon today. It was a fantastic luncheon. Just a beautiful experience with the kids at the school. Mary, would you concur?
Well, of course, Don.
Wasn't that fun?
It was very nice. The music was excellent. The jazz band played for us. And the food was very good. So we had a great time. Thank you to all of the school folks who made it happen.
Right. And Randy had said to me at the meeting that because of our increased attendance, and we have been adding to the list of seniors that attend these events, and there were 35 there today, plus 5 that wanted to attend, but for other reasons couldn't be there. So that would make it at 40. And he was wondering if we could increase the budget a little bit. And I didn't know, I think the board ought to have some kind of a discussion maybe for next year. If we put this in the recreation, is that where it comes
Well,
out?
remember, we have it in 2 places. We have a line item for the seniors in the general budget.
Okay,
And that we put at 3,000 this year. And then under Mike's recreation, if you'll remember the discussion of recreation budget last week, he also mentioned, I think that was 3,000 as well. And it wasn't specifically said for seniors, but he said that's where some of the senior money is. So keep those in mind as we're looking at
okay. Well, I
social activities. That's what it was. And we bumped it from 2,500 to 3,500 in the proposed
okay,
budget.
so we did bump it 1,000, and I'm hoping that will be enough. Maybe we don't need to do anything until we do. And then maybe we can find it. I also wanted to express our feelings. Howard, I was sad that you couldn't be there and that you didn't feel well. We missed you, and and Howard, believe me, I know this is the last thing in the world that you want, but I'm going to do it anyway because it's not only the right thing to do, but it's something that's very, very much deserved. I wanted to present this to you today at the Bill. Could you go to option 1, please?
Not there anymore, but I'll get you.
Bill's our digital expert here. I wanted to get this close enough so that you could see it, Howard, and also those that are joining us could see it on the Zoom call. And Howard, this is from the Town of Rutland Selectboard. On behalf of the residents of the Town of Rutland, hereby express our appreciation and our thanks to Howard Burgess for your decades of service, both as a full-time lister and as a member of the Planning Commission. During your time in public service to the people of Rutland Town, both the Lister's Office and the Planning Commission benefited tremendously from your thoughtful consideration of the wide variety of issues that came before both bodies. Your service throughout an era of tremendous growth and expansion of our town provided both timely and professional guidance which is so evident in the financial stability and the orderly growth of our town. Your courtesy, diligence, and reasonableness in dealing with the public in both of these positions has rightfully earned you the respect and admiration of many boards, and on behalf of a grateful town, we thank you, and we wish you the best in your future endeavors and a long and happy retirement. Thank you again, Howard. And the reason for this presentation tonight is that this is the last meeting that we will have in this year. And since you have announced your retirement from full-time Lister service as of December 31st, this is only appropriate and very well deserved.
Well, nothing that I expected and needed, whatever, but I do appreciate it and thank the board very much for your kind words and thoughts. Thank you.
You're very welcome, Howard. Okay, are there any? I see no members of the general public in this room. Is there anyone on the Zoom call that would wish to address the board that's not on the agenda?
I have one item that I would like to raise, and since Howard is on and Kari is on, this would be appropriate. And I had requested that it go on the agenda. Bill and I worked on the wording of it, and then it was taken off the agenda. So since it's not on the agenda, this would be the time. So I would move that we take up the matter of Howard Burgess vacation time owed to him at this time.
I'm going to rule that out of order. That motion is out of order.
Why?
On advice of attorney, and I don't give that in public.
Well, I'm an attorney too, and I move
Well, you're not our
that
attorney.
we take it up. And
No,
I would
I'm gonna
appreciate a
Second that.
motion's made and seconded.
It's been ruled out of order, and there's a proper procedure when a motion is ruled out of order. It's ruled out of order because the reconsideration of that is not appropriate according to our town attorney.
It
And
was
I don't,
never considered, Don. We
What was
never
never-
voted on this.
what was never considered.
The
The personnel policy has been considered and voted on by this board, and I have a solution to this problem, Mary. And I really resent the fact that you don't allow the chairman to do what the chairman's job is. It's the chairman's job to set the agenda, and that's why that item was taken off. And if you had a disagreement with that, which you obviously have, it would have been appropriate and courteous for you to call me and tell me, and then I could have told you why I took it off.
And it would have been courteous for
Okay,
you
can I
to
say
call me
something,
and
please?
tell me
We
that
have
you
a
were
solution to
thinking
this
about it.
problem.
Can I say something, please? I'm a little concerned that we are a party of 5, not 1, Don, and I'm not trying to be nasty, but I think we have a right to hear Mary out. She's an equal member of this board. I don't know how Kurt feels. That's the way I feel.
Feel the same way. I believe anybody should be able, any of the 5 board members should be able to put something on the agenda without the approval of the chair. And
You do.
I do.
Well, it hasn't been that policy in the past.
Well, you're not the mayor, Don.
No, but I am the chair and I am
You're
responsible.
appointed by us to
I
do
am-
as we direct.
Well, you seem to have a lot of knowledge about what the chairman's job is, having been on this board for less than a short 6 months.
Sure.
Well, sure.
Yeah.
I can assure you, Kurt, that you have a lot more to learn than you have inside you on this particular issue. I do not, and I will not go against the advice of attorney on this matter.
Well, I would point out first that none of the rest of us were aware that our attorney had been consulted about this, Don. That
What-
you took it upon yourself to go get some kind of an opinion and a letter directed to our town clerk from the attorney without consulting with any of us or telling us what was up. Our town clerk is now in the position of having to interpret something. And I believe it is a policy decision that the select board can make when in a case such as this, the adoption of our personnel policy in August was made retroactive and effectively wiped out Howard Burgess's accumulated vacation time. I've spoken to Howard. I've spoken to Kari. The situation is unfair to Howard. We treated other departing employees of the town better when we realized there was an issue. We made sure that Byron Hathaway's calculation of vacation days and sick days was appropriate. We made sure Walter Tripp's sick days and vacation days were appropriate. So it is my intention to make a motion that the personnel, and I will do so, the personnel policy be made prospective with respect to Howard, so that his accumulated vacation, instead of retroactive, which is what I understand you instructed the attorney to write to Kari about. So by making the personnel policy prospective, it preserves Howard's accumulated vacation and sick days. So that's my motion.
Second.
The motion is out of order.
I still would like a vote on the motion.
Aye.
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 No, the motion's been ruled out of order.
Joey voted aye too.
One thing I gotta say about this whole situation, folks, and this is annoying to me, is that we have treated other elected full-time officials differently than we're treating Howard. And that's unacceptable, inappropriate, and it's an error on the board's part when we adopted the personnel policy and made it retroactive. I don't know how we're going to get around this, because last week we spent more than an hour beating the Lister thing to death and the general budget to death. And everything is based on the fiscal year, which starts July 1st and goes to June 30th. Every pay calculation, every sick day calculation, every vacation calculation is based on the fiscal year and not the election date. And it gets very complicated that if a new person were to be elected in March, where and how the things start. Nobody thought about this. We just put stuff on paper, but nobody's thinking how this works. There's no money in the current budget. If Howard's term was up in March and he got done in March, somebody would be elected to take his position, but there's nothing in the budget that covers the stuff that's there because we don't think about it. Everything has been calculated forever. All of Byron's time, all of Kari's time, all of Marie's time, Donna's time, and Kirsten's time were all figured from July 1 to June 30th on the fiscal year. Nothing has ever been figured on this election time. So it would not be in our best interest as a reasonable board. We just lauded all of these congratulations on to Howard, and then we cut him off at the knees and say, well, we're going to take all your time away because we made a decision that affected you negatively, and well, it's just too bad. It's poor insight on the board. We need to look at this in a different perspective than what we're looking at. Everything has always been figured July 1 to June 30. The election time is never figured into it. So we need to really take a better look at this and iron this out so that going forward, everybody will be on the same page. We don't have these arguments and differences of opinion. This is childish at this point.
No, I don't think it's childish, Joe. If you want to hear an explanation, I'll give you one. And I appreciate what you're saying. I listen to you. I listen to Kurt. I listen to Mary respectfully. And I wish you would listen to me respectfully now. First of all, this is not personal at all. This is not childish, nor is it vindictive. And there was a solution after taking that off from the agenda, as I did. I looked for a solution, and actually the solution was right in front of our eyes, actually, because it was only one small consideration, but it was a fairly good consideration when we were considering the other increases that we gave during budget time that I proposed, and we concurred with a raise for our town administrator, Bill Sweet. And one of the reasons was that he was taking over the 911 position. What we overlooked was the fact that Howard Burgess took over the 911 position from Joe Zingali and has been doing that for nigh on to pretty close to 4 years now. And not only that, but the work that Howard has done on the 911 was fairly significant because there were a lot of, well, let me put it as gently as I can, there were many foul-ups, I'll use that word, that had to be straightened out. There were angry citizens that had their numbers changed, and there was a lot of work. And I thought it was appropriate, and I was going to recommend to the board, and I had some concurrence on it, that we compensate Howard for the 911 additions to his lister duties, which clearly are not lister duties, but he agreed to take those on, and that the appropriate compensation would be pretty much in the amounts that we're talking about. That would have solved the problem, and the reason for solving the problem that way, and not the way it's been proposed to the board this evening, is the fact that the whole reason that we redid the personnel policy was exactly what you said, Joe, because of the confusion concerning vacation days that occurred with the resignation of our road commissioner. We as a board had decided that we wanted to solve this problem for the future for all employees of the town in the future, knowing full well that we had at least one more retirement coming up and possibly another vacancy. That being the case, we made the concerted decision to put a clause in the personnel policy that the vacation period will be calculated for regular employees based on a calendar year, hired employees, and for elected employees based on the elective year, which only made sense to us, and it still makes sense to me, since that's when your term starts, is when you get elected. You certainly can't calculate the year any other way than election time to election time. That being the case, all parties in this building and all employees of the town were provided with that personnel policy, which specifically stated when the vacation time would be calculated from, including Howard, and he knew that. And Howard had questions about this when it happened, and both Bill and I spoke to him, letting him know that this was not done because of his retirement or considering his retirement. It was done for the whole town, and that he was the only one that had control of when he retired. And he made that decision to retire when he did, which is his perfect right. But that personnel policy applied to all people then, and he did not announce to this board until after that time that he had intended and fully intended to retire December 31st. And he came to us politely and told us that, and that's when his vacation time was calculated. Now, it states in the personnel policy that the board has the right to change the personnel policy at any time, provided they notify the town employees, all town employees, which we did, and provided that policy to every single person in the building. So they knew. The advice I received was that to void that, or to consider that any person that existed before this policy was adopted is therefore exempt from it, would be creating a situation where anyone at any time could simply complain that the policy didn't apply to them. And that's irresponsible, and it's quite frankly not legal. We would not have a personnel policy. So if we intend to have a personnel policy that's in effect, other than vacating it, which we have a right to do if you choose to do that, then we have to apply it equally to all people and not go back to a previous policy. Because the date that we adopted it is the date it became effective for everyone. Not excluding people that were covered under the old policy. We didn't correct anything. If you vote the way you have chosen to vote, you are abdicating the responsibility that we have to follow the very policies that we adopted. That's simply illogical. Why would we try to correct a situation and then when we get the first instance of it, we don't do that?
May I speak to that?
Anyone can speak to it. That's pretty much the end of my spiel.
When laws are adopted in Montpelier, as you well know, in almost all cases, they are made prospective to take effect at a time in the future so that people will become aware that things will change in the future. When we adopted the personnel policy, did not consider prospective versus retroactive. What happened was, we adopted this policy in August after Howard had already had to make decisions about accumulating or not his vacation time, which had to be adjusted as of June 30th, previous to our adoption. The interpretation that you have is that it was retroactive to the previous March because he was an elected official, and that effectively wiped out some of the time that he had accumulated and became unfair to him. I am not saying that we throw out the policy. I'm just saying in this case, we should make it prospective to the next calendar year, or in the case of elected officials, the next beginning of their elected term. That gives them plenty of time then to make arrangements, make calculations of their vacation and sick days, and act accordingly.
Well, can I ask you a question, Mary?
Mm-hmm.
What you're suggesting is what we should have done,
Mhm.
but we didn't do it.
We
And
didn't discuss it.
That be the case, we didn't discuss it. You're going back, you want to go back in time to when we were discussing this thing and talk about things that we might have forgotten to discuss when we have already finished the discussions formally as a board and voted on the personnel policy as a board. Everyone's signature is on it. That signifies that every single board member was okay with what was in it. And now you want to go back and say, oh, well, I really wasn't okay with that because it should have been. I don't think that's a proper way that legislation is done. You have indicated how legislation would be done in Montpelier if it were done properly, and maybe prospective versus whatever, retrospective. But we specifically had the discussion as to who it was going to apply to. And when we were having those discussions, we said it was going to apply to everyone. Nobody said, well, how about people that were elected before? Nobody said that. We said it was going to apply to everyone, knowing full well, we knew 2 years in advance because Howard had told us a couple of years ago that he had intended to retire from active service, and he was going to be done. He had told us that.
John, I'd like to say something when you
Just-
get a minute.
There's a proper way to do legislative business on this board, and we did what we were tasked to do. We did it in a way that we thought was proper, and the way to correct it is to make an amendment to the policy and follow the procedures that we have in the personality policy to amend that policy. But to do it on the fly like this, when we have another solution that doesn't require any changes to the personnel policy, the solution that I proposed in the beginning to pay Howard for work that he did that was over and above the call of duty in taking on the 911 responsibility. So I have no problem about the financials of this. I do have a problem with not abiding by policies that we as a board have enacted, period. And that's what I'll say.
Can I say something? Can I?
Yes, go ahead, Sharon.
Well, one, I'm the first to admit we made a mistake. And in light of the making a mistake, I think we need to revisit. I was on the personnel policy thing. I made a mistake. I didn't do my homework, and I'm the first to admit that. I think, because I don't think it's just Howard. I think Kari might have some time there. I just, what's legal and what's moral are two different things. And morally, we owe the people that work for this town what they deserve. I don't care what policy we made. I made a mistake. I'll admit I made a mistake. I didn't do my homework, not well enough to know that we screwed up and that we were hurting Howard and probably Kari, and I'm not sure who else. But I think we need to revisit that policy, and I think we must make it right.
Well, I agree with you 100%, but that doesn't solve this particular
I
problem
think we
because
solved it with our vote, Don.
no, we could solve it. We could solve it by paying him the amount of money and leaving that alone until we do it properly, which is to warn it, which is to have a discussion on it, which is to make the changes you want to make. What you want to suspend you want to suspend the agenda and go back into a personnel policy discussion here and now? Is that what
No,
you want to do?
because we've already voted on it, Don. You
Voted
were
on what?
overruled. We agreed
I
that we would,
overruled it
Apply.
because it was out of order.
then I would
That's a ruling of the chair.
Then I will challenge the chair that this is not out of order and that our action was appropriate.
Well, I think we need
Is
a
there a second
parliamentarian to
Second,
decide that.
Motion's made and second that there's a challenge to the chair to make our action previously taken appropriate.
That's right. We need a parliamentarian to decide this. It's not
No,
going to
we
be
don't.
decided.
It has to be the next step. You wanted to follow Robert's rules. The next step is then to have a vote of the full board on whether it's
No,
appropriate to
no,
challenge
that's
the
not
chair.
true. The next step, when there is a challenge, is that you have a parliamentarian to determine whether the challenge is appropriate.
No. There's a
I'll
pending
make another
motion.
call to our town attorney to see if it is. Boy, what an interesting change. What a Merry Christmas.
Well, I'm trying to set something right.
No, you're trying to act as chairman of the board. You want to direct
That's
this.
your fallback, isn't it?
No,
Let me
no,
just
that's not my
remind-
fallback, Mary. That's the policy of this town. It's been the policy of this town for as long as I've been here. The chairman sets the agenda. When the chairman feels that an item is not appropriate for the agenda, they don't put it on there.
And you didn't have the courtesy to inform me it was removed.
And you didn't have the courtesy to tell me that you were going to challenge it this evening. So,
Well-
courtesy runs both ways, Mary. I've said that
Yeah,
before.
Don,
I'll say it again.
This is the other
Courtesy
thing.
runs
This matter has
both
come up
ways.
before the board two other times,
Yes.
one of which was in executive session.
Well, don't
and-
talk about it then.
No, except to say it ended in a shouting match led by you.
No,
And
participated
so there
in by
was-
all.
You wanted to discuss and reach a solution. It could have happened then, and it didn't because of the shouting match.
No.
So we have tried to rectify
I think
this
it's
matter.
inappropriate for you to even describe what happened in an executive
Oh,
session.
I don't think so, because
But I don't think you care too much about executive
most
session.
people could hear the raised voices, Don.
Oh,
Yeah,
did they really?
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah, most
Is
people
that-
do that.
Is that who's talking now? Or the people that heard the voices were out in the hallway somewhere? No, I don't believe so. You haven't been happy since March of last year, Mary, and that's pretty apparent.
Oh, dear God. Now it's on me.
Well,
Yeah,
you want to put it on me, yet you want to castigate me for
No.
putting it on you.
no,
Talk about
I'm just
the
trying to
pot
run
calling the
this
kettle black.
and
Well,
do
where you
the
go?
right thing for one of our employees, and I'm tugging you back into what the real issue is here.
No, I'm tugged you back in with a perfect solution to the problem
But
that you want to avoid because you would rather have it your way.
no, you. had
My
raised
solution
this two
solves
other
this.
ways, Don.
You think
You
that
had
Howard
two
has been,
chances to raise
you-
this and you didn't.
you think that Howard has been unfairly treated
Yeah.
because he is not being given compensation for something, okay? You, in this case, you think it's his vacation days, which are clearly not defined as eligible under the policy that we have passed. I found a way to provide the compensation without challenging the personnel policy. If you want to change the personnel policy afterwards, like Sharon suggested, I'm perfectly fine with that. But Howard could have his compensation and go on and have a happy retirement and know that this board appreciates the fact that he worked doing 911 work when that clearly is not a Lister duty.
Then why didn't you raise that a month and a half ago?
The last,
Good God, if you had waited about, 10 seconds, it was about to come up and there was a person on the board that thought that my idea was a pretty good idea and she was ready to second it and make the motion and the deal would have been over. But no, you've had to have it your way and have that on the agenda to discuss the personnel policy and a recalculation of benefits that was entirely unnecessary and not according to the policy that we adopted.
In error.
Oh, well, in error. Where does it say in the policy that if you find out you made an error that you can just do whatever you want to do? Where does it say that in the policy?
Do we take a roll call vote on what was,
Well, as far as I'm concerned, we have
As
passed.
far as I'm concerned, if you're going to bypass the chairman of this board, then I'll have the vice chairman take over the meeting and I'll just go home and that'll be fine. You can do whatever you want to do. Since you want to challenge the chair of this board that you elected and that you show no confidence in.
Anyway, can we proceed with the meeting, please?
We'll proceed with the meeting with the department head reports. Mike, you on?
He's not, he won't be here tonight.
Hmm?
He's not here tonight.
No. Okay. Sharon, do you have anything for Mike?
no.
No.
I haven't heard.
Chris?
I'm here, Don.
Good evening, Chris. How you
Good
doing?
evening. I'm doing okay.
Good job. Good job last night. Fortunately, no one was injured. That's about all we can say, I guess.
Yes, that was a group effort by all the mutual aid and Proctor. Tonight, I just have a couple things, if I can find it here. I had a busy 2 weeks. We had 11 calls. 4 car accidents, 3 fire alarms, a few trees on wires, a structure fire in Rutland town, and mutual aid to Proctor yesterday. So it's been a busy couple weeks. And the other thing I have a new member that has applied. We have met with him and we feel we want to give him a chance. And I was hoping to get the board's approval tonight.
Do we have?
I
do we
don't have the,
paperwork on that?
no, I have it here. I forgot to leave it there today. So I'll leave it in the office if you approve them so you guys can sign it tomorrow.
What's the board's pleasure? We usually don't do it unless we have the document.
Yeah, we usually don't.
We usually just ask questions.
And is it in town or out of town?
He lives in Rutland City.
And his name?
Michael Drop.
Chris,
he's
have you guys done all the necessary background stuff and got all the approval like you do with all the members?
We have. The police
And-
department did that for us. We met with them. We see no issues.
And he meets the criteria of out of town and you have a position for him in a place, right?
We do, correct.
Okay, then I'd make a motion that we accept Michael Drop as a new firefighter, Town of Rutland Fire Department.
I'll second that.
Motion's made and seconded to accept Michael Drop as a new member of the Rutland Town Volunteer Fire Department. Discussion. Just a question, Chris. Is there a limitation on the number of out-of-town firemen that you can have in the department?
There is. We can take 10 out of town people.
Where are you now?
We have 7, I believe.
Okay.
I just asked that question.
Any other discussion from the board? Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
I,
Aye.
Aye.
It's unanimous and Michael Drop has been approved. Congratulations to Michael and welcome to the town of Rutland's Volunteer Fire Department. You're joining an excellent bunch of guys and gals dedicated to the town. Thank you.
Thank you, guys. That's all I have for tonight.
thanks, Chris.
Thank you, Chris, and Merry Christmas to you.
Same to all of you.
Okay, Dave Sears, who is with us this evening, our road commissioner. Good evening, Dave.
Good evening. So my report is snow. Any questions? All right, a little bit more than that. So we spent from the last meeting till this one, we spent quite a bit of time on the shared use path when we could. We've got most of it cut down to the little exit part there going out to Chisana Drive. Still got quite a bit of trees to cut there, but actually starting to look like a path. Who knew? We had one storm in the last week, a little small little 2-inch thing. It was mostly on the north end of town. Contractors came out just for one pass on the south end. It was just wasn't really a lot down here, which is, I'm sure you guys probably know, but I'm learning that there's a wide array of weather patterns throughout the town.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah.
So we cleaned that one all up. This one we had over the past weekend, kind of the same thing. East Pittsford Road has 8, 9, 10 inches on it. Borderline has 4. You know, it's just, so we spent, you know, quite a few hours taking care of all that. And, because the guys are kind of new at what they're doing, they're kind of a little bit timid about getting close to mailboxes and stuff. So we spent the last day or so pushing banks back and trying to get paths opened up to streets again. So, and put some signs up today that got knocked down from us and others. Did a little mailbox repair work and stuff like that, and getting ready for the new one coming in Friday, Saturday. High times.
Yeah, that one's gonna be a treat.
That one's gonna be fun.
Raining and then off of the temperatures.
I know.
50 to
That's gonna be a
mid-teens,
bottle.
10 hours.
Yeah, it's gonna be a bottle out there.
So are you satisfied with the way the routes are now aligned?
Yeah, it's working pretty well.
Okay.
It really is. Yeah.
Good.
Everybody kind of has their little areas figured out, and yeah, it's working.
I think the only problems you're having are just familiarity with the whole process, and
Yeah,
that just happens. That just happens with experience.
Yep.
When you lose as much experience as we've lost in the last year,
Yeah, absolutely.
it's not going to be the same right away.
Right.
So it
No, I
takes-
mean, Jason went from the 550 to the big truck, and that's a big difference. That's a
Mhm.
whole different animal. And, you know, Ben's getting used to plowing a street in general. I mean, he's done parking lots, but there's a whole world of difference between a parking lot and a street. So they're getting it, you know, every day they learn something new. By the end of the season, we'll have it all figured out.
Yep.
Have to start all over next year.
Well, we'll work through the problems,
Yeah,
you know,
Absolutely.
my counsel to you is, and I'm sure you know, and you do, is just to keep the people happy with, you know,
Mhm.
some of them will complain a little and some will complain a lot, but I've tried to allay the fears when some people have called me that you know, we just,
Yeah, we've been
takes a little
responsive.
time to
Yep.
acclimate new people to a job, so. We're lucky we have them, so. And by the way, Jason and Ben, thank them, would you, for me, when you see them
Certainly.
tomorrow for the card, nice card.
Absolutely.
Appreciate it very much. That it?
That's what I got.
Beautiful. Well, stay safe.
All right.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
Dave.
Merry Christmas.
Thanks, Dave.
Kari Clark. Good evening, Kari.
Good evening. Don't really have much tonight, just that we have a deadline for our second taxes due January 10th. Just a reminder, it's going out in all of our avenues that we usually do our reminders in. And I've offered the third position to a girl named Taylor, and she has accepted. We've been in communication, and she will begin, I believe it's going to be January 4th. So when you see her, welcome her with open arms, and she's happy to be with us. So I'm happy to have her on my team. And that's all I have.
Great. Anyone have questions for Kari? Kari, we did not, in fact, get that check from Cortina, did we?
Are you talking about the balance that we were wondering about?
Yes. Yes.
Well, I have not been there for 2 days. My son got his wisdom teeth extracted. I
Ooh,
do plan on coming in tomorrow if he continues to feel a little better tonight. So I'm not sure what we received yesterday or today, but prior to that, we have not received that balance.
okay. Well, it isn't due us, but I just was wondering if we had it in-house yet, so.
Not
That's
that I
it?
know of, but again, I'm not sure what came in yesterday or today.
Okay. Listen, you and your family have a very Merry Christmas.
Thank you. Have a Merry Christmas to all of you as well.
Thank you, Kari.
Merry Christmas, Kari.
Barbara Pulling, our Planning Commission Chair. Good evening, Barb.
Good evening. Couple of things, I guess 3 things tonight. The Planning Commission continues to work on redoing the subdivision ordinance. We've been at it a couple of months. We might be just 1 meeting away from completing that work. And then we're going to send what we've changed to VLCT for them to take a look at, and then consider what their suggestions are, and then send it to the town attorney when we've got a pretty polished product, and then to you folks. So that's coming along. You know, that dates back to the 80s. So there are quite a few changes that are being made in it. The energy survey continues along. We'll keep it up until the 1st of January. We get a couple new people responding to it each week. And then the third thing I want to mention was the pocket park. I get people asking, you know, how things are going with it. So I think there's some buzz out there, which is good. A very interesting offer came through Howard for some volunteer construction work. So I don't want to name names, but it's quite impressive. So I think that just follows that people have heard about it and they're talking about it. And we might indeed get some help with the work that need to be done out there. We're still working on an MOU with GMP. And I also took to after I spoke to you last time about a possible 3 stages of construction. I'm kind of jumping around here. I'm sorry. I went to the Town Planning Commission, and they kind of concur. We talked about, maybe dividing it into the south end, the north end, and then a connecting phase. There was an idea posed at the last planning commission meeting that perhaps there could be another step, another stage where we just go in and initially just clear it out, get the invasives out there, be able to see what's there, and maybe that might help us with our next steps. Maybe throw some, not throw, but put some picnic tables and trails and parking lots in there. So that's an alternative idea that is out there. I also wanted to bring to your attention, and it's nothing serious, that I dug back in a little bit deeper into the relicensing application that GMP was doing. And I didn't realize this, but they have been in contact with two Indian groups, the Abenaki and the Mohicans out of Stockbridge. And the Abenaki actually, communicated to GMP that they were interested in a gathering place, that they wanted to keep that option open, for the GMP property. It sounded like it could include the pocket park. So they were interested in access and gathering there. The Mohicans are interested in land disturbance, putting in any signpost or stairway posts, anything that digs up the ground a little bit. So GMP in its application said it was going to continue to work with these two tribes as designs were developed on the park, and that it would also work with the Vermont Division of Historic Preservation, which is what they told Mary and I at the last meeting. They wanted to do a cultural assessment with the state on that. So, I think, I don't know how to put this, but I'll start reaching out to these tribes and just making contact through the town, if that's okay. And just let them know where we are in the process, not make any commitments. And take any direction from you folks that you have.
Barbara, I have a question.
Yeah.
So it's the Mohegans and the Abenaki both. That
Yes.
they're suspecting we're part of. The reason I ask is on our land, we have a registered historical site that has Indian artifacts. So it was just interesting to find out that I had always thought it was just the Abenaki, but obviously the Mohegans are involved also.
Yeah, I mean, the Otter Creek was an important place for all the Indians that were in the area. And I think, Center Rutland is pretty much at the point where as far south as the Abenaki went and as far north as the Mohicans went.
Okay.
So since GMP has already reached out to them, I think we should also consider both of them. Yeah.
Well, let's hope that this isn't as contentious as it sounds. You've presented it very professionally and gently, but I'm just hoping that it's not what I think it is.
Well, it doesn't sound contentious to me. They just want to know that if there are any artifacts, that they're aware of them. So
that's not what I heard. I heard that there was a tribe that was concerned about any digging that took place on the site. That's what Barb said.
That's so the artifacts were recovered.
Yes, they want to be notified, but the fact is GMP has already said that it would go to the Vermont Division Historic Preservation and get a cultural assessment done in 2023.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that that will identify anything that might be there. And, you know, and some people say, you know, with all the, you know, all the huge current there and all the flooding that has happened, major floods there, what could be left? And, you know, it's a steep area and at times it was terraced. So there are some possibilities there. And that's what we need to find out through the state assessment next.
Do you have any definition in your mind, or do they give you any definition of what a gathering place would be? Because we're building a park that will be a public park for anyone to enjoy. So I would imagine that would include those two tribes as well.
Yeah, I don't really. And, you know, to be frank, I didn't realize. I have invited Chief Stevens to our stakeholder meetings. And, you know, he was, you know, there was some support there, but nothing at the same level as the Mohicans. The Mohicans sent me maps showing, you know, where they were, you know, pre-European contact. And I didn't get the same response for the Abenaki, so I kind of backed off a little bit. But now we should change that because of what GMP, you know, how they have been communicating with both tribes.
Good. Okay, well, keep us advised of the timeline. The only other question I have or suggestion, Barb, is that you do a little research, if you would, in terms of how much additional or whether we would need additional insurance rider to cover volunteers working with labor on the site.
Okay. Yep.
So that we're sure that we'd be covered in terms of liability, especially.
Yeah. And so where do you want to go next with the different stages of construction, or where do you want to go next? We've got the MOU.
I think I still need to work with you on the MOU. I was trying to get the other stuff for the town moving. So the MOU, but as to the two stages or the two different proposals for staging, why don't you just do maybe a quick one pager comparing the two and let the select board see what you have in mind and we can give you some feedback. How's that?
Okay. Yep. And just to reiterate, mention a meeting or two ago that the MOU is an initial step with GMP.
Right.
They don't have their new license yet.
Right.
So it's not time to like do a final legal agreement with them. This would be designed, and correct me if I'm wrong, Mary, to just show that both parties are interested in the park and will work together to create one.
Yeah, and acknowledging there may need to be things like easements or land transactions, but remembering that GMP has already supported, for example, our grant to study the pocket park that we got. And they have already mentioned the cooperation with the town in their relicensing application. So there have already been several steps and indications of cooperation between us and them. So the MOU is the next step, but it's not, you know, we're not quite there with the legal documents yet.
Right. And they're not rushing it either.
No.
But we're all on the same page. And people know about it, which I think is great.
Yeah.
Because that would be so much easier in the long run to get even more volunteers and get donations and all of that thing. The more people that know about it, the more people that are talking about it, will make that easier. So that's
good.
Yeah, it is kind of good, isn't it? Yeah.
It is outstanding. So you and yours have a Merry Christmas, Barb.
Okay, thank you very much, and same to you folks.
Thank you, Barb.
Thanks, Barb.
Ed Dumas, our police chief, is here.
Very good.
So last week's, we have 47 calls for service plus 20 traffic stops. There is still some retail thefts. Again, all in the US Route 7 South area.
Is the trend still downward in the southern?
When we're there, it's down. When we leave, it picks up a little bit.
No, but I mean, call wise, I mean, is it?
We're still getting a lot of calls down there. This right here, we're down one officer, and I believe I was sick this pay period, so we're down on calls a little bit. And I think Ted was off for a little bit too. So there's plenty to do down there.
Traffic stops are constable related?
Mostly those are constable related.
Yep.
It's like a lot of patrolling up on Post Road. And
Yep.
that's good.
Yeah, it is excellent.
Yeah.
I really depend on the two constables. They do a great job. Mike's great in the HR department. JP's great in the, especially when Mike coming out, taking care of the animal complaints that take tons of time, and that's all I'll say about him at this point now. And JP does an awesome job with traffic.
Okay.
I do have this sheet. Don asked for the sheet.
Yep.
This one here.
That's
what we've spent thus far on the patrol in the southern end of town, extra directed patrol, Remount Plaza, Tractor Supply area, the south end of town. That's the breakdown each pay period. Got another one coming after today. So
okay.
Nice. So we're well within our budget, so
Mhm.
that's a good thing.
I
Um,
also text, you got any questions about these two things?
Anybody have any questions about the report, the formal report?
Or the balance sheet of director patrol?
Did you want to inform the board of what we had talked about?
I texted them all earlier today. I got a call or I got a text from Rob Evans. He wanted to call me. He got busy. We ended up texting back and forth, and Days in is taken on. They want the state wants about 30 more rooms down, up to 30 rooms now.
Up to 30. Okay.
I told him I'm not too keen on it. We're already dealing with them at the Remount Plaza. He said he would bring my concerns to the state level, on the commission level of DCF. If it's any, what's a good word? If past practice is director of the future, I suspect they'll just put them there and there's nothing we can do about it.
Do we have any idea for how long they're going to be housed there? And under what program? Is it under the program that
It's the-
ends March
I think
31st?
this one is for cold weather
Okay,
program, wherever that is.
okay.
That's what I'm being told.
There.
So-
was- Yeah. Go ahead, Joe.
Well, my concern is at what point, because we know that additional rooms means additional concerns for what's been going on. At what point do these folks start helping with what's going? I mean, our guys can only do so much down there, and we've negotiated a settlement with Cortina. At what point do these people start contributing? Because 30 rooms, that's a lot of people, and if only 10% of them are troublemakers, that's a problem, and it just doesn't seem like it's going to go away. I mean, this is going to be overlapping. I was hoping that it would not overlap and that one place would just get done and another one would start, but it looks like we're having an overlapping situation. So how are we as a town going to address this?
There's the answer. That's a good question, Joe. And the answer to your question is under construction right now. There's a letter being drafted. And as soon as it's ready, all board members will have a copy of that for approval, a letter to be sent to Days Inn by our attorney. And it deals with exactly what you're talking about.
You know, and it's the same consideration. Yeah, because the same consideration is at a certain point when they start changing the use of their facility, as Cortina did, from a hospitality facility to a homeless shelter. We're going to end up going down this same road that they're going to need some kind of amendment or something, because we're heading the same direction just across the road.
That's correct. And there's anecdotal evidence out there right now, and I presume we could get a legislative report if we asked for one. But it's fairly well known in the legislative circles that program definitely will be over in March. And there may be some slight transitions into April just because of logistics, people not being able to get out then. But the program will be over, and the funding is definitely over. And that's one of the reasons the program is over, is the state doesn't have enough money right now to handle what they consider is going to be the demands of transitional housing and cold weather housing or any other homeless housing that they have prescribed. And they're looking, there's something like a $40 to $50 million deficit right now in what they propose. So that program will end, but the people will still be there. So everybody assumes
they don't disappear.
Everybody assumes that they'll just transition from the Cortina into other facilities, but that's not the case if there's no money to pay for it. So we'll have to just see how it unfolds, but it's definitely ending. I mean, if it ends when the money ends, we always knew that, and the federal money has ended unless they come up with some more somehow or other. So we're trying to, as far as can be determined, the Days Inn never had a permit.
Because they were Howard Johnson and they were
Right.
built before Act
That was
250.
pre-existing just
Yeah.
before 1970.
Yeah.
That does not mean that there aren't requirements on them, but it would have to be approached in a different manner. But and I don't mind saying this openly, the strategy is going to be to get voluntary compliance from Days Inn, and that's what we'd like. And you'll see the letter soonest, probably by Friday. Well, I'm
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
So do you want me to take up matter B at all, or do you want to just wait?
I can hear you.
Matter B, do you want, while I'm sitting here, do you want to do that, or do you want to wait on it? Be on your agenda?
Oh.
New business, under new business, you want me to?
Well, yeah, it's good a time as any, Ed. You're here.
Days here, so.
So Joey, we'll start with your idea on the dispatch service.
Okay, yep. So, as per our discussion last Monday, and a way to, put us in a position to, to be ready in case dispatch takes off, I would propose that we have a ballot item in March that would ask the voters to allow the board to spend up to $150,000 from any excess 1% money, and that excess would be over what we anticipate, which I believe this year is anticipated at 120,000 or 1.2 million. So we would put that before the voters, that if there's any excess that we could spend up to 150,000 for dispatch services if that comes to fruition in the next fiscal year. Or at any point that it comes to fruition.
Oh, I think that's good. I'm glad you changed that, Joe, because we don't want to
Yep.
limit ourselves. If we're gonna do it, we don't want to limit
Yeah,
ourselves.
we don't know when this is actually going to happen.
Probably not gonna be next fiscal year, but we don't know that.
I'd second the motion.
We have a motion on the floor to construct a ballot item authorizing the town to spend up to $150,000 of
1%.
of 1% money, should that be necessary for dispatch services, decided on by the state, at a future date.
And it would be any excess over the 1.2 million. The 1.2 million would
Right.
still go toward the general. So it would be any excess.
Okay.
If there's no excess, then I guess there's no,
Say that.
Yeah.
I neglected to put that in the motion, but that definitely is part of the motion. This
Yeah.
this would be money that otherwise would be swept. I'm sure that we can construct a ballot item. Any discussion on the motion's been made and seconded? Hearing no discussion, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 That's unanimous.
And then, item 2 that we have discussed is replacing one of our police vehicles, utilizing the 75,000 that we received from Cortina for past expenses or past inconvenience, however we would want to do that. But that would be a good use of those funds, and we would avoid having to tax our folks for this replacement police vehicle.
So I
And
would
that
second
would-
that.
What's the amount gonna be at? I mean, do we have an idea, or should we get one number?
That's probably a good idea. But we've looked at right now that everybody shut down the building process at this point in time. They're not taking any new bids. They don't know when they're gonna open up construction of new vehicles. It won't be fiscal year 2022 to be, or 223, it might be 2024 before they actually start building police vehicles again. So in the meantime, we may have to, I don't know, go with a general purpose truck or an SUV, something. Ted's been looking, Ted likes to do that. I don't. But he's looked at a few, but the prices are quite high, but that's civilian level, or what civilians have to pay. And I know usually the towns get a fleet discount or whatever, however they do it. So I know it's usually
Yeah, if we go,
significantly, at least a third less than what it would be for.
Yeah.
What do you think the range would be?
My cruiser was, I think it was almost back in 2016 was, I want to say 50 grand or high 40s, and they got it for 28, something like that. So
So 75 is within the ballpark.
yes, that should be.
that
Yeah,
should-
we don't.
Ed, is there a way that you could kind of maybe, or Ted, contact the state, through the same method we did with the fire pickup and the, 550 that we purchased for the highway, and see if they have, some figures just to give you an idea where this is maybe at this time?
Joe, I did that already. He told me that
Yep.
the bidding is closed. They have no date on when the next bidding will open, and there's no pricing until the bids open.
Okay, all right, that's what, all
We're
right.
in limbo.
So
Correct.
we're in a hold pattern. How long will your cruiser go before, the wheels fall off?
As long as, well, we can put money into it all day long if we have to, but I mean, I'd rather
Yeah.
not. It's okay.
I think
I
the
mean,
reason why
I-
we were, Sorry, Joe.
I mean, we can authorize the money, but if you can't get a truck, then we're gonna have to probably come back and, I hate to go out and buy just a regular vehicle and spend that money and then end up having to, do it again for a cruiser, but, we don't know what might happen or if there's something out there.
Ted's looked at, Dodge, not a Charger, SUV, that Dodge Charger, Durango. They've used them as cruisers too, so we're looking around, so we can find.
Joe, I'd rather see us just make the general statement that we wish to buy it with funds from the special account.
Yep. That was my motion, is that's what, the timeline is going to be on availability, I think, but, it would be nice to be able to only have to buy one vehicle. So, maybe the money, if we earmark the money as a board, it'll be there. And then when Ted and Ed come up with a solution, then we can decide how we're actually going. But we just need to authorize that that's where the money's going.
Right. I didn't want to see the amount of 75,000 put in there. I just wanted to see the general statement.
Only what we need.
Because we know it should, that's.
If we find something, I'll come back to the board. You guys can tell me. Yay or
Yeah.
nay.
I mean, we don't need to have that money. I mean, just that it would be funded by that account.
Special account, yep.
Yep.
You making that as a motion, Joe?
I did.
There a second to that motion?
I've seconded the first one, so I'll second the amended one. That's
Yeah.
without the amount, right?
Right.
All right.
Motion's made and seconded to fund an additional police cruiser out of the special account from the Cortina Inn settlement. Any discussion on the motion? Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 That's unanimous and that's voted.
Anything more for me? You guys have any questions or?
Anybody have any further questions for the police chief? Good job. Have a Merry Christmas, Ed.
Merry Christmas.
Stay safe. And now the highway truck. Joe, you're still up.
Okay. So again, based on our conversations of a week ago, I would make a motion that we purchase the proposed new highway truck by Dave Sears to come from the capital improvement account. And I think that, I don't know if you want a figure, but I think that we should put it at a maximum, or that we would use up to $125,000 for that truck, just in case of inflation.
Second.
Motion's made. You made that as a motion, Joe?
I did.
Motion's made and seconded to purchase the highway truck out of the capital improvement fund, up to $125,000. Discussion on the motion.
This would also go through the state bid process.
Yes.
Yeah.
Dave, do we know if we could move forward, or are we in the same position that the police are?
When I talked to Chuck, I don't know, a month and a half, 2 months ago, he said things were starting to loosen up with the truck market. Didn't sound like it was gonna be a problem to get one.
Okay.
So then the question reverts back to, can we use capital improvement money for the purchase of a truck?
Well, based on what we received from information from the auditors, yes, we can, because it is a purchase that will outlast its depreciation time. So it is a capital improvement.
The ballot item says to fund the construction, maintenance, repair, and or improvement of town buildings and infrastructure. So are we calling a truck infrastructure?
Yep.
Okay.
Well-
fundamental facilities or systems.
No, infrastructure.
Yeah, that's the definition of infrastructure is fundamental facilities and systems.
It's a system.
I'm basing this, Kurt, on what I was told by the auditors. That's why we, propose going this route. That it is a legitimate expense.
I just want to make sure we're doing justice by the voters from what they checked on the box in 2015. That's all I want to make sure of.
I think we're good. I really do.
Yeah.
I mean,
And then
if I didn't, I wouldn't even consider it, but
it's just want to do my due diligence there. And then the next question is: Are we purchasing another 550?
Yes.
Are you gonna outfit that with a wing?
Got to see where that comes in. I didn't price the wing.
I'm just wondering if we'd be better off trying to purchase a good used 5-ton truck instead with a plow and wing. That would, I mean, you're plowing with a 1-ton, you're making 2 or 3 passes, 4 passes on a road. Would our money be better spent on a truck with a plow and a wing? Where we can spend a little bit less time on the roads. And then if we find a good used truck, we won't be subject to, manufacturing restraints also. And then we can get it into a rotation with our replacement fund. It's my only other thought. I mean, I don't want
We could
to
do,
sound negative
yeah.
here, but we can chase our tail all day with 1-ton trucks, but I mean, you kind of need some plow equipment to plow our town roads,
The original roadmap that Byron came to the board with about 12 or 14 years ago called for 3 7-yard trucks and 2 550 size trucks to handle the town as we transition from a contractor town crew to a full town crew. So this would be headed in that direction, with probably within a year or 2 at the most, we would purchase another 7-yard truck. But we could allocate the funds, and then based on availability, we don't need to specify the specific size of the truck, but that we would spend up to this on a plow truck. And if it finds out that we can't do one, we would be open to purchase. There are trucks out there, 7-yard trucks that are leased, and they go back to companies and then they're out for sale. That information is available. So we could have this more open-ended, and as the winter goes on, Dave may think that, well, maybe we would be better with another 7-yard truck. And if we purchased a good, one that had been leased and then taken back, and that may work too. So we aren't really tying our hands. We can allocate a sum of money and then let the road commissioner decide how best to spend that. That's okay with
I like that.
us. I mean,
I like that idea, Joe.
this transitioning, yep. And we won't tie our hands with a specific truck.
Yeah, I like
How
that.
does-
I like that idea for a couple reasons. It's flexible, and it puts the decision in the hands of the person that should be making the decision, and that's a road commissioner. So,
Dave, how does Dave
works
feel
all
about
around,
How does
so
Dave
the-
feel about that?
the motion simply was to use that the town use capital funds up to 125,000 for a highway truck.
Right.
And-
No specific trucks.
That's non-specific, and that's the way I understood the motion to begin with. So,
Yeah, I just want to hear, like Joe said.
Yeah,
wanna hear-
and I'm fine with that. Mike, I have a couple concerns. One is generally if you buy a used truck, you're buying somebody else's headache, because if it was any good, they wouldn't be getting rid of it. Getting a leased truck, possibly. You don't generally hear too many of those out there that are,
You gotta talk
just came out
to
of a 2-year lease and somebody's looking to get rid of them, but.
Patriot Trucks down there in Westminster. They do a lot of that. I know Chester, they're on a 5-year rotation, and they just rotate them out. They have a lot of really nice trucks down there. Just
I
something we
think,
can
you
do.
know, Dave, one of the things this allows us to do, Dave, and I thought about this after, you know, you and I have talked about the truck and what you want to do, and obviously it's your decision, but as you go through winter, being your first winter, and you might see the challenges that you're facing, you might want to just augment that plan a little bit and do something different. So, this way you will have the flexibility to do what you think is going to be best and what's going to work best, and you know, get what you want going forward. So if that works for you, then I'm okay, and I think the rest of the board is.
Yeah, I'm fine with it. Like I said, like, you know, when I started figuring this stuff for presentation to the board, you know, I was trying to keep the number down. You know, a new 5-ton is another 60 grand on top of that. So, you know, I should just trying to look at a 1-ton, you know, a 550 or something like that, just to keep the budget number down. But at some point, we will be looking at, you know, 180 plus for a big truck.
With 2-year build times now.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, one of the beauties of making this decision that the board is moved and seconded, and that we're discussing, is that it doesn't, it isn't subject to the limitations of our budget process, because if we approve it out of capital funds, that leaves the decision entirely time-wise to the road commissioner and the needs of the town and the availability of equipment and so forth. So I think that works.
I'm fine.
That works all around in the best interest of the town.
Good with
So,
that.
is there any further discussion on the motion? You ready for the question? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 It's unanimous and you're authorized. Anything else?
I think those
Anything
are
else
our
on
3 big
highway?
discussions.
Three
Those are
items.
3 big items.
3 solutions. There you go. Thanks, Joe.
Yep.
Joe, you and Rose have a Merry Christmas.
I'm not going anywhere. We still got business to do.
That was your out, man. What are you
Sorry.
doing?
I'm
I'm
What, you got
not
any
going to
business?
let you guys suffer without me.
It's good to hear, Joe. Any other new business to come before the board?
Oh, wait, we haven't heard the rest of the department reports.
Oh, wait a minute.
Because
We
we
have not.
skipped.
Where are we? Oh, boy. Yeah, you can tell it's getting late.
Yep.
Mike Delehanty, if I cut you off, Mr.
JP are not present.
JP was on.
I wasn't.
No?
We're right down to Bill then. That was quick.
Oh, no Mike, no JP. Okay. I guess that leaves it quickly to you, Bill.
Does.
Did you bring your camera? We can all smile for town report.
Do it if you want to. We can do it. So that town report is one of my topics for tonight, so stay tuned. All right, so let's see, I'll set that aside. So the only packet item was a clean set of budget sheets. So salary rates for this year and for next year, and all of the budget sheets with all of the changes as discussed.
Well, let's see, we've already approved police, fire, rec budgets, highway budget.
Mhm.
So, I'll make a motion to approve the general.
Now, are
Second.
motion's been made and seconded to approve the general budget. Are we comfortable with the senior amount?
Sorry.
For the senior?
Oh,
You think that's enough for the expansion, or?
Well,
I mean-
as the fair question, we have $3,000 in the Rutland Town senior line. Let me see if I can find
Where
where
is
that
it?
is.
It's last page,
Last page.
Last
five,
page.
four, five.
Yeah.
$3,000, which, and I think we had 3,000 the previous year. And then under the recreation budget, we have
Went from 25 to 30.
approved, from 2,500 to 3,500.
That's 1,000 up, so.
And just so between those two pots of money, and I will say that the seniors also have a pot of money in an account. And then occasionally they will charge, a small amounts, $5, $7 or whatever for participating in a particular event.
We discussed that also, but Randy she didn't have a number. He was saying that he was looking for some more to make sure he had enough. And I said, well, I don't think that the seniors would mind paying 10, but if we don't have to. I mean, we're up to 35 now.
We're up to 35 in recreation and we're up to
No, 35. members,
people, gotcha.
People
Okay.
coming. So, I suppose there were about 10 standing in the back of the room, but then I found out that mostly they were from out of state grandparents of the kids in the band. So,
You do those once a month?
pretty much
Yeah.
try to do it once a
So
month.
if
Well,
you
they
had,
don't do,
January, not
January and February, they don't do.
No,
okay. Well, if you did them once a month with the $6,500 we have budgeted, if you have 35 people show up, that's $15 a head for 12 months. So
Hmm.
Yeah.
should be able to do something for that, I assume.
I would think so.
just asking.
Just the fast math I did.
Yeah, I
I
just
you
think-
know, I just
This,
don't, I don't.
this calculator magically migrated over to my desk, so inflate
No,
that
it's
thing up.
just, it's just tough when somebody comes to you that you would like to be responsive to, but it's at this late hour. I mean,
Yeah.
I don't have a number from him, so
Yeah, I don't know.
kind of hard to
See what happens, I guess.
put it in. I think if we go over, we'll probably be able to find some funds.
Should be able to find it somewhere.
Neil for.
Well, you definitely spend a little bit and you realize next year you need more money.
There
Right.
you go.
You're not
Well,
gonna
the motion's been
deficit
made.
spend the whole. We won't deficit spend the entire general account, but we might deficit spend one line. And then when we sit down and say, oh, we need to do a little something different for the next year. So we can do that.
We can. The
Or you can
motion's
put
been
it in there and have
seconded.
too much and it gets lost. I'd rather be a little short and not just put money in there and then have it swept away at the end of the year because we didn't use it.
I fully understand short.
Yeah. It's short. It's shorty. Motion's been made and seconded
Mary,
to
it's
approve the
getting
general budget, which is the last budget that we have in front of us to be approved. Are there any further discussion on the general budget? Hearing none. All those in favor of the general budget? Let's see. I want to make sure I get this in the motion. No, that's not it. Where'd it go? No,
You're looking for the total?
no, general budget is $1,214,244.
Yes.
It's on your first sheet. Hearing no further discussion on that motion, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
I,
Go
Joe?
vote it.
Joe, you good with it?
Yes, I said aye.
Oh, I didn't hear you. Okay.
Yeah,
That's unanimous and general budget's been approved. All the other town budgets have been approved. So,
Don, I have a quick question, just a quick question about highway.
sure. Yeah,
and it's on the very front sheet there, anticipated income. And this 160 that's down there, that is the paving grant, and then there's 120 in the state aid. So I don't know if that anticipated income should read 280 or if it should read because the paving grant is for a specific job and a specific project, and the state aid is just assistance for the funding of the budget. The amount to be raised by taxes at the end is correct. So I don't know if we need to just change that for clarity.
You said you didn't want to include it, so that's why I took it out of the calculation. So I can't have it shown in that line and have it not be part of the equation. So that's why I took it out.
Yeah. Okay. Because I just don't want it to be confusing.
Bill?
So in the minutes from the meeting, it talked about the amount to be raised by taxes. So yeah, the end number, the net general budget number, the 882,558 that's the amount to be raised by taxes.
Right. Because if you look at previous budgets, they show all of the anticipated monies, state aid, highway access permits, grants, and whatever, and then those are usually totaled in that anticipated income, but only the state aid is deducted from the operating budget. So I didn't know I just don't want this to be confusing for anybody when they look at this at a pre-town meeting or anywhere else.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I can explain it, but
I might have a way to rework that to add it back.
Because right, the specific grants don't get deducted from the operating budget, just the state aid does. But it's not a big deal. But I just want.
Yeah. So what we're looking at then is a question of whether we put 120 as the anticipated income or 160.
280. So what I'll do is the net general budget line, the 882,558 is the amount to be raised by taxes. So there's a way I think I could put it back so it shows the total anticipated income of 280, but still reflects the right number at the end.
Which would be the 880.
Yeah, it's just it's adding and subtracting in different parts of the spreadsheet.
But we're not really changing total.
Nothing's changing. It's just the way it's represented.
Okay.
Spreadsheet equations.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay.
Background magic. Don't worry.
Yeah.
It's fine.
Yeah, I had the same question Joe did.
Yeah.
So, but thanks, Bill.
Yep. No problem.
Okay, Bill.
All right. The software we signed up for, the security training software, which we partnered with from VLCT, is called KnowBe4. I have sent out, I've started some training campaigns, sent out some, it does automatic reminders. The utilization fairly town-wide for users is pretty low. So I mean, it's up to people if they want to take the training or not. It is good stuff. There's some good resources. I have also started some what we call they call them phishing campaigns, where we send emails that are intentionally designed to check and see how well people pay attention. And so far, one person clicked on a bad link. It was our own bad link, so it doesn't actually do anything bad, but it's kind of an example of like, here's how we can be in trouble. So doing the trainings helps to identify the issues that we could run into later on. So anybody with a town email address gets them. So it'd be good to take them. They don't take very long. Some of them are 5 or 10 minutes, and they're not very difficult to do. We just started one last week, so you would have had a new one there. But they are good. It's just some good awareness. But it does automatically generate reminder emails to remind everybody to go in and complete it. So it is good information to help make sure we're protecting all of our information. If anybody has any questions about the training or anything like that, just let me know and I can walk you through it. We had talked about some retrofitting locks for the filing cabinets and things like that from Vermont Correctional Industries. Well, after my contact information not working, I finally found a phone number to the shop, called the shop, and the state has ended the program. The shop is no more.
Oh, boy.
The wood shop and the sign shop are,
Everything good has
are
to
no
come
more.
to an end.
So you need somebody to do the locks.
well, that's something that needs to get done, but that's a different
Okay, 'cause
project. But no.
the girl that did the locks for the jail
Mhm.
also does the locks at the mission.
Right, but
Joan.
the division of the state correctional industries that built like the furniture we have
Right.
did that as part of the build, so it would have to be like kind of built retrofitted after the fact. So we're going to talk to them about being able to do that, but the entire shop is emptied out; it's gone. So,
That's rehab. That is one of the best rehab programs the state ever instituted.
So I talking to the guy there that's delivered furniture here. I talked to a bunch of times. He's as disappointed as everybody else is. It's just he said it just didn't make the cut. So it's no more. So we have what we have, which is great. But down the road, if we need furniture, we'll need to find a new source for that. So too bad, because it was a great setup. The town report schedule. I have the town report schedule for my due dates. So I would appreciate, and I will send out, I got it just done a little while ago here. So I'll send out a message, around to everybody. But January 6th would be a great day to have everything to me, because it backs up against calendar dates and meeting dates and things like that. So, I know the school is usually right up till like as long as they can wait, but that gives a few weeks to get things done. That kind of ties in with the new business item A. So because that meeting we could do, if we wanted to change a meeting date, move it around, but that's gonna be my target for really getting into it. So after the planning commission meeting on the 5th is when I'm going to empty the chairs out of this room and move stuff around and start taking this over to build the town report. So that week is going to be busy with that project. So if contributors can start getting their information together, and we have some of the social service appropriation reports, I have some of those. But in looking at the costs for this year's town report, every page in the town report is about $70 because it's times the number of reports we have to buy. So when we look at reports and information we want to put in it, I have communicated to the social service ones that they get one page, and like that's what they get is one page. So I'll look at some ways I can maybe save some space on some other ones, but yeah, it's $70 a page this year. So that adds up pretty quick. So the more efficient we are, the better we are. Most department head reports are one page, so that's not a big deal. It's the budget plus their report. So, we'll get through that. So our street and sidewalk ordinance, we had gotten through that, and I had VLCT has a municipal service so they can review ordinances for towns. I sent it to them to kind of see, say, hey, this is something we're gonna be working some of these ordinances, talk to them. Their rate is $100 an hour for review of the ordinances. And their reply specifically for our streets and sidewalk one was not exactly what I was expecting. They gave me an overview of their process, and then they said, in specifically in regards to this one, they said we should take everything out of we should basically get rid of the ordinance in its entirety, have a single ordinance for the naming of roads, which is statutorily something the town can do, and all the other topics become town policies. They sent me a bunch. I got this afternoon, so I haven't looked at anything yet, but they sent me a bunch of examples, and he says it'll make much more sense when you see the town policies on things like taking over a road. It wouldn't be an ordinance, it'd be a town policy on it. So it's easier. He says it's managing the process. So he sent me some examples. I have not looked at them yet, but I was not expecting that response. Was kind of threw me for a loop. So so like Barbara had said, we want to send the subdivision ordinance to them. We could do that. We thought about using VLCT versus the town attorney because it would be a lower rate, but it's just up to what do we want to do. So, so VLCT is $100 an hour, but we kind of got two issues now. So I got to look at this other stuff and see like what we want to do, because the subdivision ordinance that we've been working on for months relies and refers to the street sidewalk ordinance in many locations. So if that's gonna change, we gotta kind of halt the subdivision one where it is and go back to that. So it was not the response I was expecting, but I don't think it's going to apply to all of them. They said specifically some of the topics that are in there are much better served as policies rather than ordinances.
So policies can change simply by board decision.
Yes.
They don't have to go through the lengthy
That is a benefit to that. Yes.
ordinance process.
I think the one that probably is not on their list would be the speed ordinances.
That's the vehicle and traffic ordinance.
Right.
Yep. But we haven't, so on the,
Because frankly, the court asks for a certified copy. So they're looking for an ordinance.
well, as a
I
matter of
don't
fact,
think,
there's a new judge. And
Okay,
the
yeah.
judge said our copy is invalid because it doesn't have a seal on it. So we got to get a seal to put on it to send to them, because apparently tickets had to be changed because it wasn't a sealed
okay,
copy.
but
of
that
the
would be
ordinance.
one I would think would remain as an ordinance and not go to a policy.
So the one I sent them was streets and sidewalks, and his comments were directed at that one because of the topics in it. I don't think his message would have applied had we sent them a different one, maybe. But we can send it to them and they'll say, yes, we'll do it, yet no, or no. Like he said, at this point, it wouldn't be worth time to do it. So the vehicle and traffic ordinance is on the police committee agenda for review. So I kind of when I send out those agenda topics every Monday, the various departments that those ordinances fall under are on that list, and so I kind of put them under there. Like fire has a list, police has a list, highway has a list, just to kind of just put them on there to review. So that would be good to do. But yeah, I'm gonna take a look at some of his suggestions and see what they mean by the policies, and it's a very different approach. But yes, you're right, Don. Like if we had a policy on, for example, accepting a town road, or like the Carmel Place, scenario. If we had a town policy on that and we wanted to change the policy, we just change the policy and we don't have to go through the 60-day readoption process. So, yeah.
Makes sense.
So that's a whole different topic. So we're gonna, that's a different thing right now. Something else I thought of, you're talking about the ballot item. We had discussed a change in the election of a delinquent tax collector, and that term is technically up in 2024. So if we wanted to change that or ask the voters to change it, we'd have to put it on the ballot in March. So just something to think about. And we still don't have a solution for what we're going to do come January 1st.
I'm glad you reminded us, because we really need to make that decision.
Yeah, we do.
And
I think the ballot language could probably be taken from
The highway.
similar
highway
to
one and
the
just
highway one.
cut and paste, and I don't think that'd be a big deal.
Well, have we budgeted in-house for the payment? We would receive the proceeds. And we would use that to pay a person, but then we'd probably have to add maybe a half-time person for that.
Yeah,
Which we had talked about.
Yes, we
gonna-
had.
it's gonna cost us money in the end, isn't it?
Well, it is and it isn't, because the problem is it's like a box of chocolates. You don't know which one you're getting. I mean, we have no plan for transition other than we throw it up to election, somebody runs. And then we've got a transitional period of, if we want to leave the decision up to the voters, then that's going to be a policy decision of the board as to whether we want to do that or not. It's getting more
Wouldn't-
complicated, but we had talked about bringing that in-house.
So Jim said he had scanned the VLCT has a book
Yeah.
on like
Yeah.
delinquent tax collection. He said I think he was gonna send it to you, Mary. I'm not sure who's gonna send it to you, but I don't know if anybody's received that yet or not, but
I
we
know
could-
he mentioned it. I think yeah.
we could buy it from VLCT. I mean, I
Yeah,
think it's like
it-
$50, but
Probably should.
we don't have a solution. So
Well, it's probably
we
one of
put-
those where, yeah, go ahead, Joe.
Well, if we put this on the ballot in March and ask the voters to go from an elected position to a hired position or appointed, it would take effect on the expiration of the current term, which would be a year after that, gives us a
Right.
time to, we can appoint somebody to take Jim's place to fill out, if somebody's interested, finish out his term. And then the voters approve it in March. So we'll have basically a year to come up with somebody. We can put it into at this time next year when we're doing budgets, it could be part of that budget because it won't start until either March or July 1st, however we word it, and go from there. So we've got time to make this work in the transition, and it would be better to do it now than wait.
Yeah, I'm inclined to agree with you. And if the voters say no, then we
just
got
go the way we're
folks who
going.
need to start thinking about running for it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
And if the person we appoint to take Jim's place decides they want it, then they'll run in 24 when that term is up and just go from there. So I don't see a problem with it. Either way, we're covered, and we'll get off the dime and make, because we talked about this now for about 5-6 years.
Yeah.
Because we knew that eventually we'd probably go this way. So I think that's a good plan.
Yeah, I'm just afraid that the position's gonna grow to cost the taxpayers. Where right now, it doesn't really cost us anything to have a independent tax collector. Granted, you have some years where you might have some, say, accidental income. But if we get to a part-time position, I mean, you could be shelling out $20,000 a year and only bringing in 10. So I could see where that would be an issue, and putting it on the ballot, I don't really know if people would understand what they're voting for. And we're gonna kind of get ourselves shoehorned into raising our budget more. That's my only concern.
Yeah, one of the other things, Kurt, that we had talked about is if we hired someone and they did this now, we were told that a person couldn't be tax collector and say, work with Bill. But I'm not convinced that isn't a possibility. So, maybe there's been all these different scenarios put out there about somebody helping out with the administrative work and doing the tax collecting, but we haven't refined it, defined it, or do it. We just need to start at some point and figure out if we're going to do something different or if we're just going to keep going the way we are.
Well, the plan, Kurt, to answer your question, the plan was that the town would incur some cost. There's no question about that. But the plan was that this person who was the delinquent tax collector, not the tax collector, because the tax collector is the town treasurer.
Yeah.
The delinquent tax collector's responsibilities are definitely not full-time. But the idea was to hire somebody at least part-time and maybe a little more than part-time, and to have that person assist both the clerk and the administrator, or the administrator. So that's a cost of a growing town. And, we've been through this iteration before. It takes Bill a day and a half at best simply to compile the minutes. And although that's a valuable function, it certainly is more of a clerical function than it is a thinking function. So to have somebody do that, which we did have in the past. I mean, we've gone backwards from that particular organizational pattern. And we wanted to, I think the board wanted to move forward.
I think there was a third alternative, and that is to contract for the delinquent tax collector services. And I think let's get that book from, even if we have to pay for it, for League of Cities and Towns, share it among the board. Because
What is
all
that
of
again,
those-
Bill?
It's their operating manual for delinquent tax collectors. It's like,
The
it's
Bible.
the how-to. Yeah,
Kind of,
it's
yeah.
basically, I mean,
Tax collecting.
I've never actually seen it, but it sounds like it's basically like, oh, so you've been elected delinquent tax collector. Here's how you do your job, kind of thing.
Does Jim have that book?
He does. I'm assuming he paid for it.
Would he be willing to give it to us? He's gonna resign as tax collector.
Said he would be, yes. When one of the last times he was here talking to you, he said he would
Mhm.
send it on to somebody. So I don't know who, but
I'll check and see whether. I did get a communication from him. I don't know whether he sent
Okay.
the whole thing. But frankly, I think we should have that in the town.
as a
period.
resource.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, one
probably a newer one,
edition
so
and
it's
available to
updated.
all of us to,
Yeah.
to see pertinent
If
parts,
it
because
is
there are options.
50
in
or
there.
$60 or whatever.
Yeah.
Right,
That's
I
right.
mean,
But if
probably.
it's an updated one,
Yeah.
then
I'll get it. No
Yeah,
problem.
thank you.
one way or another,
So Jim's
give Jim
retired.
a call. Maybe we'll have two of them, Bill.
When was his retirement?
Well,
When was Jim talking about retirement?
We asked him to time his retirement
Yeah.
accordingly, and all he was concerned about is that he didn't want to go into another, what do you call it? Another
He didn't want to be here when the
schedule.
warrant was issued.
Warrant
Yeah.
time,
which would be after the May.
right after
installment.
January. Oh,
It's after,
is it January 10th.
Isn't it May?
No, I
Is
thought it was
it's
at
May.
the end of the tax year.
Yeah, it's after the last.
It's after May
Yeah,
10th.
it's after the last installment,
Right,
after
May
May
10th.
10th. That's what it was.
Because that's the third installment for the year. So if you haven't paid by May, then now
Then
you're
you're
delinquent.
delinquent.
Then you're
Yeah.
delinquent.
Then you're
Yeah,
delinquent.
No, I don't,
that now.
I think he was, no, but I think Jim was thinking of the January 10th date. I really do think he was thinking of that.
I thought it was sometime winter time.
Well, he had said originally January 1st. Like he originally said
Yeah,
that,
right.
that was, but he
Right.
said, but he'd
So
be
that we
willing to
would
stay
appoint
on
for the
until.
balance of his term if we were going to appoint a replacement and not do away with the positions.
Do we hold off on the ballot item for a year and see if we have somebody step forward that wants to be appointed? And then,
I think the issue with if we wait until if we did right is if we wait until the election when the position is up, we'd have to do it like what we did with the road commissioner. If it's on that, we'd have to say, do you want one or not? And if they say, yes, we do want to elect one, then it goes on the August ballot.
Do a new.
Yeah, it would have to be you can't do both. You can't have a say, do you want to elect him or not? And start electing at the same time.
yeah,
That's
cake and eat it too.
that's a-
Yeah. No.
bad
It
scenario.
can be done because in 24 it will be an election year, so.
So we'd have the primary, we could do it.
August.
I'm just wondering if we maybe see if somebody comes forward that, would be willing to take over and keep doing it. And, we might get lucky with somebody, as good as Dick or Jim at doing their job, and that way you get a little bit, the people can keep some power on what they want for a tax collector that way. If we can go hire whoever, whatever they want, and the people don't really have a choice on who they have as their delinquent tax collector,
No, but if you were gonna hire somebody anyway as a part-time employee to help out with administration, wouldn't it behoove you to pay for at least half of that person's salary with income rather than pay the whole salary on tax dollars?
oh, do we want to take the tax collector and also move him into a position as helping Bill out? Some people may want to do the tax collecting
Yeah.
and not one bit interested in doing that part of it.
Yeah. I like keeping the power in the people's hands instead of hiring and appointing all the time.
When is,
I mean, if we get to the point where nobody wants to do it, then our hands are tied and we're gonna have to,
Well, we've been pretty fortunate in the last 3 iterations, so, your point's well taken.
somebody else might come along.
have we even posted the opening? And
No.
as of what date? So maybe we should do that as soon as possible. And then by the time we need to get something on the ballot, we'll know, I mean, it's only going to be a couple of weeks, but we'll know whether there's any interest at
Right.
all.
Right.
That's a good way to go.
So do we want to try and get a hold of Jim and say we need when are you done date? So we can say like, as of this date, we have an opening.
We should try
You
something
think
like
that's worth
that.
it?
Yeah, I think we need to know the
Yeah,
exact.
yeah. Feel them out a little bit.
Cause I don't know, did he give us a letter? I don't think he
I
did.
don't think so.
Okay,
This guy came in and
talked.
Talked.
Yeah. All right.
that was everything I had. Oh, actually, well, there's the new business item, the calendar, the pre-town meeting date.
Oh, yeah.
The school board is meeting January 9th. The school is closed on the 16th, so they said the 23rd or the 30th would be a good date. The 30th is past the date that I cannot have the town report done that by then. So it has to be, so the 23rd is a great date to do the pre-town
Okay.
meeting.
Move we set pre-town meeting for January 23rd, 2023.
Second.
Motion's made and seconded to schedule our pre-town meeting for January 23rd.
And this is okay with the school board?
Yeah, Lynn came to me and says, here's 2 dates we have available, and we
Great.
negotiated.
Any discussion on the motion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All right.
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, pre-town meeting is January 23rd. Beautiful. And I would like to express my sincerest appreciation to all of our board members for their diligent work on the budget. I finalized it again, and it's a very reasonable and judicious budget for our people.
Anything else for me?
Thank you, Bill.
Okay.
Merry Christmas.
Christmas bill, thanks.
Hearing no additional business.
Oh, I do.
Quick, hopefully.
Your floor, Mary.
Okay. We talked about this last time, but I don't think we did anything about it. As of January 1st, 2023, Marcia Chaffee will become the head lister. I was looking at the town's salary rates. She's presently at $22.47. I think we need a motion to increase her to $25 an hour as of January 1st, 2023.
Mary, did we do that last Monday?
I think
Or
we
was that-
talked about it, but it wasn't
But I don't know if we-
anywhere. And I scribbled a note to myself to make sure we covered
We
it.
talked about Marcia and Larry and didn't take action on either one.
Okay, so let's start with Marcia then.
Second that motion.
Second.
Motion's made and seconded to increase the head lister's rate to $25 an hour.
Did you still want to make a face about that, Don?
I will at the appropriate time. Any discussion on a motion?
Other than it,
Hearing
do we need to put the date as of January 1st?
I did.
Yes,
January 1st, 2023.
and that is
Okay,
in the
thank
motion.
you. Yep.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All right.
Aye.
Aye.
All abstain. And the motion passes 4-0.
Okay,
1.
and then
Larry D.
we also discussed upping the transfer station manager hourly rate of pay to $25 an hour, reflecting the fact that he's a department head as well. So I would move
That's
that,
immediate though, Mary.
right.
Yeah.
That's why. So I'm about to make the motion.
Okay.
Okay. So
Making
I
no
would move
faces.
that we would increase to $25 an hour beginning January 1st, 2023, our transfer station manager salary.
Second.
Motion's made and seconded to increase the transfer station manager's salary to $25 an hour as of January 1st, 2023. Any discussion on the motion?
Only that we were realizing that other department heads were targeted at 25, and these were two that we needed to fix to make sure they were consistent.
Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye,
Aye.
Aye.
and that's unanimous. And Larry goes to 25. The other new business to come before the board? Hearing none.
I have Don, I have a little concern. Okay. And I don't know if it's a big deal or not, but I do believe last Thursday there was a meeting held at the town office to discuss the available ARPA funds. And there were, I believe, 3 board members in attendance for the meeting. That meeting was not warned, and it probably should have been, especially since a quorum of the board did attend that meeting. I think we need to be careful about warning meetings like that. We don't want to find ourselves in violation of the open meeting rules or laws or stuff, but I just was a little uncomfortable with the way that was done, and may or may not be a big deal to anybody, but it did make me uneasy.
I appreciate your concern, Joe. My intention was to meet alone with Lyle Jepson and get the particulars on how that process with ARPA would take place. Mary asked me courteously if she could attend, and I said, fine, and it was kind of like having a highway committee meeting, and a couple of members show up because they're interested in it, and then you've got 3,
Sure,
but
right.
your point is well taken. I mean, I didn't know Kurt was going to come because he hadn't talked to me, he hadn't asked me.
I'm not criticizing anybody. I'm not doing anything. I just think what we should do is any time that a board member meets or there's a meeting like that set up, that there could be more than one, or the public might be interested, even though you didn't intend it. I think this, having Bill warn them, I was told that with the budget meetings, the ones I had with highway and police were the only ones that he was asked to warn. And I have learned over the 6.5 years I've been here that it's always better to cover your butt than not. So I just think that we should just get in that habit of just having them warned, so that if all 5 of us showed up because we were interested, I think we'd have been in trouble. But anyway, I just wanted to make that out there.
I appreciate that, Joe, and I think it's good policy going forward to warn these meetings.
Yeah, I probably should have realized as soon as Kurt came in that we had 3 members there, and that was my error, because then I would have kicked him out of the meeting so we could have had it.
Hey, Don,
I would roll my chair
Don?
down the hallway.
Yes,
yeah,
sir.
we could have had 4 because I was there dropping off a timesheet, and I chose not to come in because I felt that might have just aggravated the problem. So I went home and went back to work.
Well, your point.
And I figured you guys would tell me in time we'll hear what you found out.
We did record it. So hopefully Bill will do some minutes or a summary of what was discussed. It was more, I mean, obviously we didn't make any decisions. It was just trying to figure out what the money was.
But you know,
our
yeah.
ideas. Yeah.
Actually, Joe, the greatest resolution to the meeting was that Lyle had agreed at the end. He had 5, I believe it was 5, maybe it was 6 different specific items that we had discussed, areas that where funds would be applicable, and he was going to get back to us with further information on those 6 areas and who we would contact at the state level to get the process going. So that was pretty much the resolution of it. There were specifics about how much money and so forth, but it was just it was the initial meeting to find out where we were going and how we would try to get there to get as much money as we could from this fund.
Yeah, and like I said, I have no concerns about the contact. The integrity of the town's board is the only thing that I want to make sure we do not jeopardize.
Yeah, no,
Agreed.
I agree, Joe.
I think we're all in agreement with that. Sure. We will agree to be flogged for that meeting. Anyway.
You have
Yeah,
to stay after. You're going to have to stay after tonight.
Not me. I wasn't here for it, Joey.
I gotta
Me either. I'm going home.
Me too.
Move, we adjourn.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And there's nobody.